Welcome to the Wednesday, January 10th, 2024 Planning Board meeting for the town of Raymond. The board will come to order. The board does have a quorum. Kevin, we'll start with you.
Kevin Woodbury.
Mike Richmond.
Robert O'Neill.
Ed Kranich. Mark Childs.
The board works from a published agenda. We have the approval of the minutes. We have no old business to discuss. We have new business, a prospective application for membership, and then we'll switch over to a workshop. I'm going to dispense with the long reading since we have no real projects to view today. So our first order of business would be the approval of the December 13th minutes. Are there any?
No, I move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's all. All right. Hey.
Beat him.
Sometimes you just run late.
We're just happy that you're here.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Okay, our next order of business is the interview with Stephen Clark for our membership. Stephen, would you kind of go up to the microphone for us? We have like about a 45 questionnaire thing to get through.
Okay.
And usually what's it take, about an hour?
At least.
Yeah, that's each member, right, yeah.
Love it.
Does anyone have any questions for Stephen? Start with. Yeah.
Just in general, what's your experience related to planning and zoning?
So, my general background is general contracting. As far as backgrounds to zoning and stuff like that, fairly new to it, doing some development, but interested in it and interested in being part of the town and decisions making.
Stephen, just kind of a procedural question. You work in Raymond, in the town?
Yeah, I work remote. Yeah.
So, and you're in the contracting business?
Correct.
Do you I know this is like an impossible question to answer, but do you foresee many conflicts developing with your contemporaries that you work with?
No, not really at all, because we don't do a whole lot. A lot of the stuff that I'm doing is small remodels or exterior flips, so not a lot of permits or processing through the town for stuff like that. You know, roof replacements, siding replacements. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
Kevin, do you have anything?
No. I think, Steve, are you the one that was in Scouts with my son?
No, that was probably another Steve Clark. I know there's more than one in the town of Raymond.
But you're about the right age.
Yeah. Like John Smith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few of us.
Do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so.
So we meet every Wednesday.
Yep.
We have, occasionally we have site, which we, in the winter months, in the fall, spring, we do on Saturdays or Sunday afternoons. During the summer months, we try to squeeze them in with more light in the afternoon.
Yep.
So, sounds okay?
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, no problem.
We need a motion to send Stephen's application to the select board recommending approval.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any
Second.
other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Done. So we'd go to the select board whenever Sue can get on their schedule. They probably want to look at you too. And then you'll be with us.
Sounds good.
Okay?
And I'll be in touch with them to get them set up with a copy of the ordinance and all that fun stuff.
Perfect. Okay. Workshop, turn it over to you.
All right, sweet. So I distributed some of the stuff, hard copies. Some of it's color, some of it's not. And I sent out the PDF earlier. I did quite a bit this week getting this stuff organized and trying to get it together so that we could try and finalize some stuff. But with that being said, there's still a lot of changes that I think need to be made to some of this. Starting with the first, this is pretty basic one. It's just including some language for our adopted codes. We don't have anything in our ordinances right now on which codes are adopted. I may actually change this and just make it its own standalone ordinance, which is going to be a little bit more work, but if I have time, I'm going to do that. So,
What kind of ordinance?
like a building code ordinance, or electrical has to be its own. That's a state law. You have to have if you're going to do the electrical, you have to adopt an ordinance that describes which code's adopted, the fees, and all that stuff. So I may just do one for building, one for, I don't know, we'll see. I mean,
Okay.
we can put it in the land use ordinance, but the only problem is to update the land use ordinance, it's a process. So we have to make sure that, you know, the codes get updated in the ordinance, and it's just one more thing that can get missed over time. So I'm going to play with it a little bit more, but at least we got all the information here together so that we can structure it however we need to.
Okay.
Now, is this, I see we got Wayne on here. Is this exclusive of any fire requirements?
Does not include fire codes. Well,
that's a
there
separate
is
ordinance,
the NFPA 101. The fire protection ordinance actually has its own adopted code section, which they did a couple of years ago. And
I see NFPA 101.
yeah, NFPA 101 is one that we typically enforce,
Okay.
or required to enforce.
What are you using now for building codes?
So we're still enforcing all of these
Yep.
because under MUBEC you're required to, since we're over 4,000 population.
Yep.
So by state law we're enforcing these, but it's not in our ordinance anywhere. The only one that it's kind of an issue is electrical. So this is more or less a clarifying thing so that we can just put it out there for people who need to search, like if there's an architect or an engineer or a builder that wants to just go to the website, go onto our code system and see what the town has for, you know, adopted codes. It's just to make things easier.
Many towns don't have anything.
A lot don't. I've been looking around to see what people have. So that's it for that. Is there any comments on that one?
No.
Do we have anything that states how current we keep, or are we keeping like current with the state?
Yeah.
Or are we,
Yeah, essentially that's what we do, or what we have done. When MUBEC updates, you know, if they change to 2018 or 2020 for like the building code, for example, we're required to do that, whether or not our ordinance says that.
can we
Yeah.
go further? Because the reason why I ask is for solar, battery storage and new battery technologies that are coming out, which are safer, but haven't been, updated into the older codes. I think there's a lot of concern with people trying to get to safer modalities in that, and without staying current with the specs, the codes, we can't do that.
So we have typically gone with, at least from what I've been told and what I've found in the records and stuff, just applying the standard MUBEC adopted codes. The only risk you run into with going with newer versions is contractors that work in towns all over the state. They get comfortable and expect that all towns are on the same version. So if they are proactive and looking into seeing what we are requiring, for building code stuff, you really don't run into a lot of basic things that change. But like energy code, for example, you bump up to a different energy code and the rules change quite a bit.
Right, I mean, I was looking at like
Yes.
855, which is a standard for the installation of stationary energy storage systems, which was really my biggest concern. We used, for our house, we used a lithium iron phosphate, not lithium ion. And there was no coverage of that in the code that Raymond had adopted. So it makes things a little harder to do.
Yeah, I mean, we can explore it. I mean, it would depend on, I guess the specifics and what you guys are looking for, I suppose.
I mean, maybe not all the codes, but something that is evolving so fast, which is, battery storage and safety of the different types of batteries. I think we really need to be concerned with that one.
Yep.
Would that fall under fire?
Well, that's what I was actually going to say. I would probably, ask Wayne to chime in on that one. He's actually a little bit more versed on the battery stuff than I am, or well versed, because they are dealing with it in, you know, a different setting, which is, you know, emergency situations and making sure that that's managed. So I know Wayne and I have had numerous conversations on batteries, and I know with solar, Wayne is right up to speed on that. So it can be something that we can workshop that one and see if, you know, and if you want to be involved in that, Kevin, we could see what it is we could put into place or something like that.
I mean, yeah, like I said, there are a lot of people now that are starting to put battery storage systems in, and I think that would be a good thing to keep current on.
Yeah. Wayne, are you aware, are you seeing a lot of battery storage systems with the solar? I'm not doing a lot of inspections on solar, or really any. That's been mostly Chris. So, and he does all the permitting for solar. Is that something you're seeing a lot of?
Yeah, we're seeing a number of requests. Kevin has a good point, and in the fire protection ordinance, we should look to adopt 855 because it deals with the battery storage.
Okay, so we can talk about that maybe next week sometime and put something together for the next round of this.
Yeah.
Cool.
A question, Alex, where we've got NFPA 1 as part of the fire protection ordinance, do you need to include it with your building codes, or?
I don't know that we necessarily need to, I suppose, but
Art specification, right?
yeah, I mean, depending on how this ends up shaking out, how it gets structured,
Yeah.
that was kind of like a last minute one for me this week to try and, I guess, look around to see how other towns are doing it. So we can talk about that one too. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, in lieu of that, you could even just replace and just say, see Raymond Fire Protection Code.
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yep.
Then that way, if you update it, it automatically flips to this one.
That
Yeah,
makes a lot of
sounds good.
sense.
All right. Next would be the accessory dwelling units. I did take a stab at starting to lay out at least what my conversation was with the state as far as shoreline zoning goes. I did send this to the attorney for his review to look at A, compliance with LD 2003, and B, the proposed amendments to the shoreline zone. Essentially, what that looks like right now, and this can probably get rehashed and moved around, but essentially, if you are within 250 of a pond or 75 of a stream, you can't do an accessory dwelling unit unless you have twice the space standards. So that's twice the lot area, shore frontage, road frontage. Beyond 250, beyond 75, it's treated just like the rest of the town, which is you don't need twice the lot area, twice the road frontage. You would still need twice the shore frontage, I'm pretty sure. So I got to figure that one out, because that's one, if the lot has shore frontage, I think if the lot's connected and say it's a 600-foot long lot and they want to do the apartment beyond 250, I got to check with the state to see that, do we need to do double the shore frontage or not in that case?
What's the purpose of that?
We don't have a requirement for shore frontage, though, on the lots.
We do.
We do.
In shoreline zone, we do, yeah. Yeah. That's a state requirement.
But I've always wondered, what's the purpose of that? If you got the road frontage, what's the purpose of the shore frontage?
So pizza lots, if you didn't have a minimum shore frontage, you could do like 10-foot shore frontage and kind of like create it so that you like are in a cove, you could have a bunch of lots with a teeny tiny little bit of frontage that all have access to the water. If you have the shore frontage requirement, you have to have 225, 225, 225. So if you didn't have that, you could make, tiny lots. So it's just to prevent, houses being stacked on top of each other with docks to the water or at the water.
Or separation of docks or whatever.
Yeah. So I think and I did put in the stuff from last time, the 1250 square footage. And I also put in a definition for living space because we talked a little bit about that last time. So I think, kind of what we're looking for now, keeping in mind that the attorney hasn't responded yet on this with his changes. I think we probably should, time-wise, we've got another meeting where we could still make some changes, but we probably should at least get a decision on what you guys think about the shoreline zone and whether or not this is a change that you guys feel is positive or not.
Personally, if it's that far back, does it?
250 feet back?
From the shore, I mean, you're not, I know we have 600 in some places, and if you're on the Cape, you have
2,000 in spots.
2,000,
Yeah.
but I mean, you're not getting the same, I don't know, we don't have a realtor at the house, but I don't believe you have the same value 250 feet back that you do 100 feet back. So I don't know if the value is going to be, I don't know if the risk is there as much for lease and Airbnb and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. It's back that far from a marketing standpoint. 'Cause I think that's one of the risks that we saw that if we did have it in the shoreline zone. Are those really being used to curb the affordable housing, or are
Right.
they just going to enhance people's revenue of rentals?
Yeah. So Alex, on F, it would not, no additional parking?
That's one that's in the current ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
I vaguely remember the attorney telling me last year when he did our review for LD 2003 that we actually can't require additional parking.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That's one of the things in the law is we can't
It was-
require.
Originally, it was that and the septic system, but then they backed off the septic system.
Yeah, and that might have changed, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's
Okay.
what he had
So
said.
we can just when he
Yeah,
reviews this,
we'll
he'll double check
see.
it, right?
Yeah.
So, and the other question I would have would be, if we're assuming these are going, or at least the percentages of these are going to become rental Airbnb, which I think is a pretty logical assumption, what is the impact to the neighbors? I mean, are we getting it, do we want something in here for some additional separation, additional setbacks from, so that, for building of the house, you might, the 10 feet, 15 feet might be okay, but if you're gonna have a
Yeah.
tuck in an accessory unit way off in the corner, where now it's it's almost could become more of an impact to the abutter than to you.
Yeah.
Would it be the same as the principal structure?
So right now, we don't have a different setback for the type of structure, the use of the structure. It's
Right.
in shoreland, it's typically 30 from the road, 20 from the side,
Yep.
or 30 from the front. So I mean, it's possible. You could add something in here that accessory dwelling units have to be set back further.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to do something like that. A lot of shoreland lots are pretty small, but the ones that have land beyond 250 are usually bigger. A lot of the lots we call small on the shoreland are usually they're only about 100, 150 feet
10,000 or
deep.
20,000.
They're pretty small. And then we have like really big ones, so it's like in between. So, I mean, that's an idea. You have a good point.
Probably the one you'd have to worry about most would be the side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The front and the rear would be as big an issue, but the
Right.
side.
The sides could be an issue.
I would definitely support something like that.
What would be
5 more feet?
5 more feet.
5 more
Are
feet.
they the same for the LR1 and LR2?
They're both 20 from the side, yeah.
So maybe 30, I don't know.
Yeah. I was
We're
thinking
shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
30 or 40
So was
feet.
I.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you go with
5's better than 10.
30 or 40, you're gonna have 20 on the other side already. So
Or
you'd
could
have-
you, getting into something else coming on here later, could you require a buffering standard if they do accessory building?
Sure, with that,
But then wouldn't we have to define what that buffer is?
Well,
yeah.
we have a definition of buffering, but
vegetative versus.
I think there's a whole, you'll see it coming up, but
And I guess another question I would have, if they want to attach the accessory dwelling unit to the existing house, how would that be handled? Would the, say they do an addition, would the addition have to be set back further than the house?
Doesn't seem reasonable.
That's the only one that would be a little weird, I think,
Yeah,
but.
If it's an independent structure, then
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. Independent structure, let's set it back
Standalone.
further.
Yeah.
If it's attached, then,
so you have detached and attached.
Yeah.
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 I guess if it was attached, you could keep the same. If it was detached, you did another 50%, 30 feet versus 20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair.
Okay.
Would there be a minimum required between the structures?
So
Fire
we,
code?
yeah, I mean, that's one that like, Wayne, what do you think, Wayne?
You mean between the primary structure and the,
You're on
muted.
mute.
Correct. So that will come up.
Wayne, you're on
Yeah.
mute.
ADU.
I kind of like Wayne on mute though, you know?
He promises.
In
he'll
answer
last.
to Alex's question, it would make sense to deal with some separation either through construction or actual physical separation.
What do you think on physical separation? So obviously, like if they're attached, they have to do a firewall, but
15 or 20?
if they want to do detached, what would you
Yeah,
say?
the 15 to 20 sounds about right. I'd want to look into the code and see what the specifics are for that, but that sounds about right to me, right off the top of my head.
So what happens with these setbacks for somebody who has an existing garage that they create, they create an upstairs,
Yeah, and they want to put something
So
above it.
it's already existing, is there, you have to get a waiver for that, or?
Well,
Yeah.
Good, that's a
Because
very,
we're
very
assuming
good question.
new
That will
construction.
then-
Well, I guess you could say, you could word it to your point, new construction.
New construction?
New construction, yeah.
There's an existing structure.
Right.
So it would be attached or an existing structure. Any expansion, well, no, it wouldn't be.
So you could build a garage and then say,
Yeah.
garage, it's gonna be a
Well,
garage.
but then,
You must
they're only
be in like the
upstairs.
building trade.
I don't know, I don't know.
But then again, it'd be only an upstairs unit.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be like wouldn't be
Yeah.
like a really full-blown,
Blown,
more like an
square
apartment
feet,
unit,
right.
really, at that point, than a full separate dwelling. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But I could see, to your point, everybody would soon be putting
That's
in.
the
Garages.
problem that you're gonna, you're
Yeah.
gonna.
Yeah.
But, or you could just keep it the same, that, sorry, you can't do it over your garage. I don't know. Or move your garage. That's not
Like
happening.
this was all, it was all for new construction, that's why I just thought, for existing structures.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. These aren't typically all requests for new construction. A lot of times it is. Hey, we
Conversion.
want to renovate,
Yeah,
renovate the basement and put a unit in there.
But what would you do if you had well, I guess if it was a non-conforming, like a garage that was non-conforming, they have to come in here for a change of use? Because it's an accessory dwelling that wouldn't meet the current setback. So would that have to come to ZBA or planning board or you?
Well, it would be a non-conforming structure, but it would conform until you change the use. So I don't know that you could really even do it.
Well, you have a garage, right? And then you
Yeah.
put an accessory dwelling in it. Is that a change of use for that structure?
We'd have to, yeah, it'd be a change of use of that
Yeah.
structure, yeah. So we would probably have to figure that out, I think, in here, how that would get handled.
And
Okay.
as soon as we figure it out, somebody will figure something out.
And those
But
contractors.
that's why we changed them.
So adding a
people too
ADU,
much.
does the sprinkling system come into effect if we add an ADU?
It'd be based on size. The accessory unit wouldn't necessarily automatically trigger a sprinkler.
So what if you, again, so if you put it above a garage, would you have to have a firewall or a sprinkler in that case then?
Fireproof
Yeah.
sheetrock.
You'd
Yeah.
have to have a firewall at least, yeah.
You'd have to have a fire rating,
rates, yeah.
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 It's a 2-hour fire rating, right, for that?
one.
One.
That
Is it?
What?
For a living unit above the garage would be 1 hour.
Yeah.
1 hour? Okay.
That's not bad.
Or if you were to do like first floor, second floor, you know, single family below, apartment above, you'd still have to do the separation.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
I mean,
got
are
enough
you
to work
guys-
with?
Are you thinking consensus is you're good with reducing or relaxing the standards in the shoreline?
Where did this come, how did this come up?
That lady who was here that
So-
night, Karen.
Yep,
I mean, we've got a bunch of people
Who want to
asked
do
for
it.
this over the years, the last few years. She's been probably the most outspoken. She's gone to the select board a couple of times, actually, about this.
You had a couple questions there too. Can you restrict the number of bedrooms?
Yeah, those are. I did ask the attorney both of those, and so I haven't heard back yet. But
Okay.
Mhm.
'Cause I remember when we first did it, it was in-law apartment, so you'd only have
yeah,
one bedroom.
it's grown.
yeah.
Same thing, how do you police it?
So I guess we can take all that feedback and
So I would say, I think,
back with something.
I don't think there's anybody opposed to it,
No.
as long as
Yeah.
we design it so that there's no impact.
Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. So the next one, number 3, is the addition of multifamily structures in the commercial district. So the change is essentially just adding the use as an allowed use, but then in the space and bulk, I did have a couple of changes in here. Jim and I had discussed where we go with density on something like that. And so we've kept the 20,000 square foot for the first unit, which kind of follows the state's minimum lot size law. And then each unit after that is 5,000 square feet, which is lower than what we currently are in the village, which I believe is 10,000 off the top of my head. Or it's 20 for the first 2. So you need 40,000 for 2. And then after that, I believe it's 10,000. So this would allow for our most dense multifamilies, which I think if you're going to allow it in the commercial district, our thought was
Yeah.
probably
And,
to save space at
yeah,
least.
to save space, and really, what's the, not that there's a huge separation between a hotel, motel, inn, and a multifamily
Right.
as far as impact. Other than septic code, right?
Well, they still have to meet that.
Right.
You know, maybe someday we'll have a sewer system down there, but. So any thoughts on that?
I think we're all okay with that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I did do some research to the comp plan, the 2004 comp plan. And it does, in my mind, it fits with the comp plan and what's the section at the end? It's kind of the the future,
Yep.
whatever it's called.
Consideration.
Yeah, 20-year plan or whatever. It's in there that the commercial district was intended to really be a village, not the village district the way we look at it, but it was, I think, set up to be a walking community with retail and, you know, some mixed-use stuff. So I do think it fits with
So,
the thought there.
getting to the next one that's coming up, affordable housing, could this be considered a tool or a provision assisting with affordable living?
I think so.
Sure, I don't see why not.
I just don't know how you'd evaluate it, but it could be.
Mm-hmm.
In
Well, it should keep
keeping
costs
with the
down.
future comp plan we know is forthcoming, so.
You want to jump in with this next?
Phew.
Solar energy?
No,
no.
affordable housing,
Affordable, yeah, affordable
Did I
housing.
skip one?
yeah, and it's
Commercial district.
Yeah, there should be an email in there from,
Oh,
Peter
yeah,
Levitt.
it's on the back.
Peter Levitt, and so we were trying to understand Peter's, and I get the gist of it, and I think probably you all can too, that there's obviously a value that's established based on household income and medium household income, and he's trying to break it down, the numbers and everything. So it's great that we have the numbers. as I've told you before, affordable housing in this market right now is almost an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Just, it's impossible to almost build something unless you do multi-tenant and even that, I think the numbers for like a Vesta and those types of organizations is really tight. And the only thing that you can control, you can't control building materials and things like that, is really property prices, right? And the only way we can help with that is possibly with a reduction of lot size, because that's all based on area value. So Alex and I were just brainstorming, throwing some things around there, and I think I mentioned the last meeting, one of the things we were contemplating is, do you give a developer an incentive for density in a cluster development or open space concepts or something like that, where you say, for every 6, you get a lot reduction, which has to be basically utilized, and you have to do a deed restriction for affordable housing, meaning whatever the county or town requirement is for.
Do we know what kind of the cost breakdown would be between the land and the building? I mean, does the land make up that much of the
I
cost?
think there's so much fluctuation, I don't know if it would be,
Probably
today it may be
more.
different, the percentages may be different tomorrow. I don't know.
A quarter of the cost
A
might
quarter
be
of the cost, maybe?
the
25%
land.
is the land?
I think that's a
Yeah, I mean,
good a guess as any.
so I was just
So
thinking,
I'm not sure you can make that much of an impact then. I mean, I don't think, I have nothing wrong with it.
no, but
Reducing it.
I'm just thinking if you did the only reason I'm thinking that is if you did a smaller lot, it would still leave open, available land for that developer to maybe get an additional regular lot. You know, you wouldn't be consuming, so say you did 2 affordable.
Right, I
houses.
understand.
Yeah, so you could still
But if
get
the
another.
cost of just the construction of the building exceeds the
I think
goal here.
it's location,
Yeah.
wherever you do it. And I think
Right.
that's the other thing is do we want to promote that in the village and the rural residential or areas closer to the center of town where you want to keep your
Right.
lower income, affordable housing type facilities. Where if you push them way out into the extremes of the town, how are they supposed to, how are they supposed to get around? We don't have transportation, we don't have pedestrian connectivity out there, we don't have resources that they might need for affordable housing.
I think multiple unit developments are really the only
Only
feasible
real
way
way,
that we
yep.
could do it with,
Absolutely.
affordable housing.
Yep, that's where
And-
efficiency
Or,
is in there.
or maybe in the village zone, we offer, like we did with just this one in the commercial district, the same thing. Maybe the same thing
Yeah.
takes place, that you say the first unit's gotta be, we can maybe reduce the size of the lot and offer more units, but again, they have to meet the septic.
Yeah.
Right.
If you could even go one step further, and if they were affordable, you could provide that. If they're not affordable, they gotta meet the standard lot sizes.
What about tiny houses? If you could have an exception in there to decrease the lot size, as long as you meet the septic.
Well, the question I have with a tiny home, and I don't know how this all falls into place, Kevin, but the one question I have with a tiny home, I mean, I think most affordable housing, you're looking for families, right? So you probably need 2 or 3
Tiny
bedrooms.
homes are not affordable. They're 2.5 times the cost of the standard square footage per.
Right, and I'm thinking, are you really building them for families, or are you building them more for independents and couples? Where, I think affordable, we're thinking more family size units.
I forgot the name of
I mean, it's a great
development.
idea, and I think the
Very
state's explored that, but per square foot, they're
Oh, yeah,
probably.
very expensive.
Yeah.
The development that we approved a couple of years ago off of, it's right near the center of town where you go up and there were multiple units in there.
Oh, Westview?
I think so.
No, the one right, the right is
You mean on
right,
Route
right off 85, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one,
Village,
The
Heights
condos?
or whatever.
The
Yeah, those kind
Yeah.
of.
The
duplex.
In a situation like that, if you allow the developer to build a couple of additional units
Yeah.
from what's allowed by the, by the regulations, as long as those units were low income and he was renting them,
Yeah.
that would be a way to get additional ones in. Because otherwise, nobody's gonna make money on them and they're
Yeah.
not gonna do it voluntarily.
Isn't that what was done with the Chase subdivision on Valley Road?
No, Valley Road
Was
had
that
an
adult?
exclusion for elderly,
Elderly,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
which, almost was the same kind of density bonus, if you think about it.
yeah. So could we copy that? Same idea? I mean, we haven't had any of those come in since I've been here at least, but
No, because we got rid of the elderly bonus, but you
Oh,
could
we did.
implement that as an affordable bonus, like.
We got rid of that because there's no way to really enforce it.
I could see
Yeah,
that,
'cause the
yeah.
next person sells it.
Yeah. unless
Well,
get
but you
it
can
in
put
the
it
deed.
in, you could make them put it in a deed.
You could make them put it in a deed,
And-
deed restriction.
But, I mean, most, I think,
Mm.
other states have done that, and I think they limit to like 10 years. and-
Yeah.
And you can fold it back into
Right.
the mix, so, I mean, you could do
Be
something
more
like that.
desirable to me.
Again, it's just an enforcement issue, to your point.
Mhm.
Unless it's rental housing is
Right,
really the only
yeah.
way you could
Yeah.
accurately enforce it.
Yeah, but I think when you look at, like I said, firms like Avesta or other venues like that, they're looking for multi-tenant, but they're looking for affordable land. But they're looking to how much, again, they're looking at that balance of how many units can we get in there versus what we're paying for the land, and a lot of towns, obviously like ours, make it very difficult to make them a return, where if we did implement something like we just did in the commercial district, it might be an incentive, at least maybe in the village, but I don't know what we have for, how many available lots we have of any,
In the village,
yeah,
not much.
not much, so you probably have to go to the next zone outside, which would be like rural residential.
Yes, yeah.
Which would take you up 85,
Mhm.
121.
Yeah.
Still would be in decent proximity to the town center, but.
Well, we do have the mobile home overlays,
Yeah.
so village.
Well,
mobile
and that's
overlay and
that's
rural.
another thing we've
Other-
talked about is, not that I don't know we have time to do it now, but, at some point, do we want to do a transition zone up against commercial?
Well, that's coming later in this
Oh,
package.
okay.
Spoiler alert.
All right. Where if we, maybe that's the location that we could do something like that.
What is this data point, though, in this email? I'm trying to figure
We
it
were
out.
trying to figure it out, too.
Generally, towns should strive to ensure at least 10% of new dwelling units are affordable, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
10% of what? The average homes built or commercial multifamily built in Raymond?
I think it's
or
just
per
residential dwellings.
Yeah, I
In general, I
think-
think.
So it's just the average per year and
Right.
10%, so that just goes backwards. You say
Yeah.
there's 100 built each year, that
I mean, look at the number of building permits that are submitted for residential structures, new residential structures, and say 10. So if you have 30 building permits, then you should have 3 affordable housing units, which
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I don't know how many
So,
new building permits do you do in a year?
building permit, well, I mean,
I
can tell you,
new structure, new like single families.
historically, it's been like 30,
Yeah.
almost every year. This past year, it's probably
So you're not making a
50 or
huge
60.
dent.
Well, it's 5 or 6.
But, yeah,
But I don't think, I mean, so is he saying here that they should cost, these units should cost less than 112,000 or 120? I guess I'm not sure which number they need to be under to qualify.
I think it's under 90,000.
Under 90, so we haven't done any new single-family dwellings with a estimated construction cost of less than 90,000 since I've been here, that I
Can you build a home for $90,000?
No way.
well, no, but that's the AMI is the income.
That's the income.
That's the income. So you gotta,
okay.
so then I think I think you're still gonna be in the 270 to 300 range,
Okay.
All
All right,
I
that's what
think
I'm struggling to
max
figure out.
end for affordable housing, which, I think we would all say right now is,
I'd-
it's tough to try to find a home for
I mean,
300,000.
a new mobile home right now is like 110 without
Just
land.
without land.
110 for like a double wide. I mean, a single wide probably is, closer to that 80, 90,000, but
Land's gonna be 60 to 100,000 probably for a typical lot.
Yeah.
around 50, yeah.
I'm with you. I bet you it's probably more 60 to 70
Yeah.
at least.
Steve would know.
Yeah, they're creeping on 100.
Lots are creeping around 100?
That's without septic and well.
It's just raw land, right?
Raw land.
All Woodstone sold for over 100, each lot sold for over 100. They didn't, and it was 2 or 3 days they were gone.
wow.
That's just raw land.
And that's no water.
So, I mean, you've got your unit, then you gotta bring in your well, your septic, your,
Yeah, I mean, it's-
so now you're starting to get up into that 250,
Right.
300 range, real quick.
We need to build towers somewhere.
Go up, don't go out. Elevators are so cheap.
Well, like you say, Jim, there are factors out of our control that have a lot more to do with unaffordable
But I think
housing.
anything we can do to help is,
Yeah,
but most of this is out of
but
our
it's
control.
income, cost of energy, which affects everything you do.
Exactly.
I mean, I do like the idea
Control
of
over that.
allowing extra units. I think that at least would incentivize a developer.
Well, it may incentivize other organizations to maybe look at property in Raymond.
Does the state have any requirements on it? Like if we allowed an extra couple of houses, single-family houses in a housing development, say 3 extra houses, and they went cheaper, and the people, are they obligated in any way to stay there for a certain amount of time by state law, or
I don't know.
can they
That's a good
just sell
question.
it in 2 years and make off with the profit?
That's a good question. I'm not
If there
sure.
was, if there was housing assistance, is there
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
assisted living and things like that?
we can research that one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the mortgage companies would
Yeah,
have
some type of
control over that.
mechanism in place in there.
Banks like their money.
Yeah, I know.
So you're thinking of taking like our open space and making it even more accommodating if?
Well, if you,
word.
yeah, but to
But-
your point, I think the percentage is small. I think what you guys have discussed as far as helping with the multifamily, multi-tenant type structures is probably the only way we're gonna combat
Achieve
this.
that, yeah, achieve
Well,
those.
but we could do that by changing the open space and saying that 2 or 3 of the homes could be
Duplexes.
duplexes. And we don't have that in there. We wouldn't allow that right now.
Well, remember we had that one
We had one just like that.
that came in after the fact, but there was no limitations to say that they couldn't do it. That was for Westview, I
Right.
remember, yeah.
But right, there was no limitation, but it wasn't designed that way.
Right, right.
I mean, that would be a way of getting more units in without changing lot sizes, without changing really anything.
Yeah, you could say that 10% of the lots could qualify for a duplex.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever worked with Habitat for
Duplex
Humanity?
would be
Maybe you could
more cost
attract
effective,
them,
not much.
Not really.
because I know they
Kevin-
build.
Kevin's trying to say something, it was coming in a little
Just
weak
square
there.
footage.
It's a square footage thing.
Hold on a minute,
Much,
Kevin.
yeah. Hover around 400.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Has anybody ever worked with Habitat for Humanity, tried to get them in and maybe make it a smaller lot size based on an outfit like that coming in, and I don't know how long somebody has to stay in one of those houses once they build it for them, but at least it would attract, some more affordable housing.
I don't have any experience with Habitat for Humanity. I don't know if you've
No.
dealt with them before. Jim.
I've dealt with them, I know they did some stuff in Portland years ago, and they've done some things in Scarborough, and I know, they have done some actual subdivisions where they've come in, but a lot of times they get the land either donated or, they get a real good bargain
Yeah.
on the property.
Right, but that would count towards, if they could work with something, if you get some organization in like that to work in your community, that would work towards our goal.
The land would be the tough part.
Land is always the,
So are we looking to get this into an ordinance?
Well, I think that we can do some more
yeah.
research on it.
I like the idea of the density bonus, or not the density bonus, but similar to what we did in the commercial for offering more density for multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
And then to your point, I don't think it'd be a lot of legwork to add an additional, the right of putting an additional duplex for every 10 units or 9 units or whatever you want to,
Right.
probably 10 makes sense. For every 10 units, you're allowed to put a duplex. One of the 10 lots may be a duplex. But would you restrict the duplex to affordable housing?
Well, I mean, Mark says it's not going to be much difference in price.
Cost is, yeah.
Cost is very close, the same.
Same.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think density is the only way that we can probably combat this to help.
Well, but Mark, cost of building would be the same,
Right.
but the land would be basically half the price, right? Because the price of the land could get spread over the 2 units.
Right.
So the total price of it,
So each unit will be
that gets
50,000
into-
less, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to do some things about allowing the septic to be shared, which we've already done that once.
Yeah, that's not a-
Right, that's not a big
That's
deal.
not a big deal.
And the well,
Could be shared too.
shared with not a problem.
That's not a problem. Because you think about, it, we had
20% of the
some,
project.
we looked at some of those type of duplexes down on 302.
Yeah.
They never got built, but
Right.
that's what they were looking to do, was to kind of do duplexes
Mhm.
down there. So,
All right, I mean, I don't see the problems going in that direction.
Would there be any benefit to reducing the lot sizes, you know, like make the rural zone 2 acres instead of 3? Would make more lots available? That help bring the
I
cost
don't
down?
know, I think that might be the question we'd have to ask a Realtor. Is there a huge substantial price in a 3-acre or 2-acre lot? I don't
It'd
know.
help with the density calculation, right?
Well, yeah, good point for the density
What I've
calculation.
seen acreage-wise, when you're messing with 1 acre, if it's a buildable lot and it's a matter of 1 acre between the other, it's minimal money.
Yeah, but it's just the density, you can
Yeah.
get, you know.
And its
But,
location.
but to your point, you know, we'd have to restrict, we probably would want to restrict one to affordable housing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be the deed thing, so maybe we should just look at the density and look at the deed restriction, and then the density again for multifamily. So I think those are things that we can kind of,
Okay.
gives us some directions to,
Yeah.
This
This
is
is
a
a tough one. We've been talking about this one for.
Yeah, we're gonna run in, I think we're gonna run into time problems on this one.
yeah, but I
That
mean,
makes sense.
we can,
It's too much.
and again, we don't know where LD
Yeah,
is gonna end up.
right. I mean,
We don't know what that final thing could look like. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter because the comp plan's gonna,
Yeah, I mean, the comp.
Direct
plan,
us.
You guys got next year we'll be dealing with probably implementation of the comp plan.
so we could pair it up with that too if
Yeah.
we had to. But I mean,
Hopefully.
we can, let's just see what it could take to do a little
Okay,
legwork and see
sure.
what comes up.
Well, they generally have a separate committee that deals with that, and then brings it to the planning board. Implementation committee.
Yeah,
So it won't come directly to the planning, well, like, I guess it could, but
yeah, that'll be fun.
I think it'll be a separate committee. That's how we've done it historically.
Yeah, okay. All new members, or is it like just certain members of the comp plan?
There's certain members, right?
Yeah,
Like a reduced size comp
Yeah.
plan, that kind of,
yeah, I think a lot of them were new members. They weren't the
Really?
comp plan.
interesting.
I tried to get on it and they didn't want me.
Really?
The first one.
Huh.
Yeah. Well,
But that happens
Yeah.
to you a lot, though,
yeah,
doesn't
it does. But it didn't work here.
All right, so solar energy systems. All we've done here, just to get the conversation started, is I took the buffer section out of the site plan and added it to the end of the solar section of the ordinance with a few minor grammatical changes, just to kind of make things work, but it's essentially the same.
So what I had talked to Alex a little bit about was, and I'm going to go look it up, sorry I didn't look at it in advance, was seeing what our standard is for a commercial development up against a residential zone.
And that's what this,
This is what that language, we didn't have specific buffer requirements.
we didn't have it in the solar, but we have it in site plan. So this is buffering, and then if you look, there is,
I didn't see anything, any specific distances or,
Yeah, I mean,
no,
I-
there
just
is
the-
specific distances.
I'd like to use a current project that we're going through, but this wouldn't affect it.
Right,
But
right.
if you look at number 4 on that, on 24-05, you know, I mean, buffers shall be sufficient to shield structures and use from the view of incompatible abutting properties and public roadways. I don't think I don't think that'd ever be met in that project.
yeah, that's what I was trying to see.
Yeah.
I thought
Right.
we had
Make it tough.
Yeah,
in the commercial zone.
and otherwise prevent any nuisances, including but not limited to the loading and unloading operation, storage area, commercial vehicle parking.
So right here in the commercial zone, which is probably not adequate for a solar farm, under, mine's what, 16 of 222, Alex?
Yep.
Space and bulk regulations, where a lot in, this is in the commercial
Yep.
zone, where the lot in this district abuts a residential district, the commercial use shall provide and maintain a 25-foot landscape buffer strip and visual screening from abutting residential district boundary. So what I was thinking is we minimally should incorporate that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's consistent with the commercial use up against a residential use. I don't know, to your point, 4 is a little bit ambiguous to, people could argue.
Yeah, and, you know,
know,
those things just make it so hard on us when it becomes a
Or-
judgment call.
Or you could even increase that buffer if you wanted to. But the problem is that when you get into these solar panels, you know, they're not structures, so to
Right.
hide them from a second-story view of an abutting property is almost impossible, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, as I put that in there.
Yeah.
Remember her comment at the meeting last
Yeah,
month?
yeah, so, but I mean, at least that would be consistent with what we have now for uses.
With-
Solar farm in a residential, even though the solar farm itself is in a residential
Right.
zone, it's consistent with the commercial use up against a residential use is what I'm getting at.
That makes sense.
So at least it gives it, but I mean, you could make it bigger if you wanted to, but I mean, that's a landscape buffer too. That's not just a vegetated buffer, that's an actual planted buffer. So I mean, you could either say 25 landscape and 50 natural.
Yeah, I think we used that behind the Dunkin' Donuts, didn't we, when we approved that one? We
Possibly.
used-
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, that, there it's a, there I think it's a reduction even further, because it's in the commercial district.
Right.
You can go down to 5 feet or something with landscaping or fencing or something like that. But I mean, to your point, you'd have to have a 20-foot fence to,
Yeah, which would be worse.
which is
than-
even worse than the
Yeah.
solar panel, we're going
Strings,
backwards,
strings,
so.
yeah.
I mean, just to put some kind of dimensional on it, that's what I was thinking, is that stealing that from the
I think
commercial.
we did 50 feet for shipping containers. Isn't that what we did? Pretty sure that's what we did.
Sure, Kevin knows.
Kevin knows. What's the setback, Kevin, for a shipping container?
In commercial or residential?
Residential.
Well, we don't have it yet, did we? We haven't
Yeah, we
enacted
do.
that one.
It's just,
Or did we enact that one?
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 50.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it's 50 from,
Well, Kevin, can you run out and measure it for us while we're,
He preceded the ordinance.
Yes, that's correct. It preceded.
His grandfathered.
Well, some of these properties are pretty good size that the solar farms are going on. Is there a distance we should have where no buffer's required because it's far enough away?
Well, I know in some,
Is that going to make him plant a buffer regardless?
well, I think in this case they're so close,
Well, I know, but
oh, but not in a residential district. I mean, that's the problem.
I know in some
Yeah,
other communities
but-
I worked in, we had it where if the rear of the property were up against a, say, a forested or railroad or utility, the board had the authority, in that community, I think we had a 50-foot setback, they could reduce it to half the setback for the use. Nothing in there about buffers in that case, but they could reduce the setback, but it'd have to be a waiver request from the applicant.
But I think your point is like that one that's in gray, right by the road. Why would we make them put in a buffer? Right? Is that what you're?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of it.
But I mean, in our ordinance, I think they have to, right?
Right.
yeah, if you were to.
I mean, that's kind of the one thing that's, you know, it's weird because, you know, some people want them, some people say they belong along highways where there's unusable land, other people say they don't want to look at them, so, I mean, it's all over the place. But I think at least in this case where we have them on a residential zone, we should be implementing something to protect the owners. And I mean,
Yes.
who's to say there's nothing there now, but in 5 years, somebody pulls a building permit, you know, and or the lots get carved up so they have to be close to that.
Yeah, because they're not gonna go back and plant them later on.
Right.
So, yeah.
And it sounds like it'd be safer if we started out with a larger buffer
Yeah, I
and
think.
give them the opportunity to come and have that reduced.
Well,
If it makes sense.
What's our
Probably
setback?
send the other way around.
Yeah.
What's our setback?
Yeah,
We don't have specific for solar. It's just whatever the district's setbacks are. So 30 from the rear and 20 from the sides.
so maybe you could make it 50 and you could reduce it to 25 if they want to do a landscape or something like that. But they'd have to provide adequate screening with the landscape buffer, which.
Yeah,
they'd
that's kind of a little bit easier to navigate through.
Yeah. So what's the board's feel?
To increase the buffer, the size, and
Or
call
do
it
you,
for a
do you
landscape.
want to,
improvement.
do you want to utilize what we have now in the commercial district, 25-foot landscape buffer? Or do you want to do combinations, landscape buffer or 50-foot natural vegetation? I don't know. Because in the solar ordinance, you still have that provision that you could make them provide you evidence that there's adequate screening. Is that
Yeah.
little caveat in there?
But I think what Mike was saying is if we make it a larger buffer, we can always waiver it down.
Yeah, at a waiver section.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean by
Yeah.
combination thereof.
Right.
I mean, we could say, make it 50, but you could waive it to no less than 25
Yeah, okay.
with a
Mhm.
landscape buffer.
Which would be in accordance with, yep, that would make sense.
You get that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. No,
That's
that makes
good.
sense. All right, cool.
And that's regardless of what zone, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, 24-6, we can skip. This was a general code cleanup.
Excellent.
So I'm just gonna send that one, or I did send that one to the attorney just to see if that's all good, the changes they had suggested to us. Just minor things. So the next thing is, and this PDF might have gotten a little out of order, but, the next thing is the zoning map changes.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't have the color version, it's gonna be a little harder to see, but, last time we talked about, there was 2 zoning changes discussed. The first one was for a lot down on Main Street. So we had a map created showing what the zoning is in the area that could possibly be rezoned based on the ordinance. So we have a 600-foot setback from Sebago Lake, from the normal high water line, and then we have a 250-foot shoreland zone setback for the wetland. It's a freshwater wetland greater than 10 acres. So there's a 250-foot shoreland zone off of that. So you'll see the 600, and then you see the 250, and then the area with the hash line that says area of possible rezone covers 1, 2, 3, 4 lots, and one of them is already village. Those could have an area that's converted out of shoreland into the village. So there is a little bit of a spot here that we could pull back that shoreland a little bit. I assume when they did the map, they just went to the property line because it was easier.
Yeah, and the advantage would be for the lots?
Within that area outside of shoreland, like for example, you can't do a duplex in shoreland. In the village, you could do a duplex.
Okay.
So there may be some additional density allowance stuff there where you're on Main Street and you're in the village, where currently you can't do it. So I think it could increase a little bit of the usage of that land. Not by much, but maybe a little bit.
So what's the request to go from,
To change this portion of the lot from shoreland to the village.
because it's outside the,
Yeah, 250 and 600. I did talk with Jeff Kalinich at the Maine DEP and ran this by him, and he said that he didn't see any reason why the department would not support the change. And he said,
Okay.
fine.
Sounds good to me.
Are these properties developed?
The one to the right, that would be changed. There's a house there, but the other 2, 3, I guess you could say, are there's nothing in that area. There is a house, I believe, on one of them. So really, it's only 2 lots that are vacant that would be changed. And then the next one, the next page down, or actually a couple pages down, I'm having Sebago do a nice looking map showing what this would look like before and after too, but based on our conversation last time, this is what kind of Jim had brought up earlier, was kind of a fringe zone. On the right-hand side of the commercial district, we have the village. On the left-hand side, it's all shoreland. So I dug into the shoreland side to see if there was any areas similar to the last one that we could pull out of shoreland and either extend commercial in spots or put it in like village to kind of make like a transition zone. It does look like there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 15 or so lots that might be able to go into village, and then there are 3 lots in the commercial district that they're being split by shoreland and commercial, and we could probably pull commercial back so that the entire lot's in commercial. It looks like when they did the shoreline zone, that you'll see that green circle kind of on the center of the page that says PF01E. That's a small, very, very small freshwater / forested wetland. It's probably just a forested wetland.
How big is it?
Like 0.1 acre.
Oh, so it's not even,
pretty tiny.
so it doesn't even qualify
Maybe
as a-
0.2, I don't know.
wouldn't count as a resource protected area?
No. It's a wetland. It's probably a forested wetland.
Yeah.
But if you look at the wetland definition in the ordinance, it would have to be a pretty significant wetland to have a 250-foot
Right.
shoreline zone around it. But they took 600 feet off of that, which is why some of those lots in the commercial district are shoreline, because they just drew 600 off of it.
I've had that happen in a few other communities, and it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
So by excluding some of that, we're able to, I think, pull a little bit out of this. Which of these mostly are all, there's some vacant lots here, but most of these are residential dwellings. So the pros, they might be able to do, someone might be able to put a duplex on these or a multi-unit or something. So it would allow us to have some more dense residential uses where eventually, they might be able to do a sidewalk out to 302 or something.
What's 600 from here roughly? Is that
That red line.
That red line?
Yeah.
And it just continues down,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
and then you get to Tassel Top,
Yeah.
which is town hall.
And go any further than that, because the
Yep.
rest of it is usually, it's just big lots.
It's got some steep terrain, I think,
Yeah.
on some of those too.
So does anyone have any
Okay.
thoughts on that?
What thoughts would the current owners of these properties have? you think?
That I don't know. I would think it'd be positive because they would have less restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
But
think,
Their
but
neighbors have less restrictions too, so maybe don't look at it that way, as it could be a negative thing.
I'm
guess
sure.
it'd
I
be a good
mean,
public hearing to have.
Right.
we would have to, if we change these, we have to do
Notification
some
them
pretty,
anyway.
intense notification.
Yeah.
So, which we probably would need to start doing that like pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So if it seems like something you guys want to explore, we can start that process.
The benefit that you see from changing this would be more correct as far as the standards for zoning,
Right.
but also it would
Opportunity.
allow opportunity for more dense housing or.
Yeah, use of this commercial village area.
Yeah.
Is that a,
Probably
s-
wouldn't happen
is that a-
until, several years down the road before things changed over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing too, with part of this, you see there's 3 lots that have the C, which is, those are 3 commercial use lots that have shoreland on them currently. One of those is the motel that would like to convert to the multifamily. So currently, a multifamily is not allowed in shoreland. So by doing this, we take that lot entirely out of shoreland into commercial, which would allow for the multifamily, which would allow them to kind of do what they want. So it's kind of, tied in with that other
which one is the winds?
the bigger C.
Oh, the bigger C.
Do they want to set up a condo type play thing? or-
Well, the White Pines Motel has been used, I guess, as extended stay, low-income housing. But it's not approved for that. It's approved as a motel.
Mhm.
So under a motel license, they can stay for, I believe, 180 days consecutively, and then they got to move to a different unit. So it's kind of a pain.
Yep.
So that's why they're like, well, they just bought the place and it's been used this way. They'd like to continue to do that. They're in the process to get licensed as a motel. And they want to do it all, they want to follow all the rules and make sure they're in compliance with the town. But they said, we really would like to convert this to, low-income housing project. It's
Not the
11,
hotel.
not the motel,
Okay.
yeah.
So-
It's not really.
Look at that, from your point of view, as converting a motel, which is built much different than
It would be a process,
housing. Would they have to just build new buildings, or?
possibly. It's going to
Seems
take
to
a
me
lot.
that it's not suitable for.
Yeah, it's going to be a project.
So like,
Yeah.
you can, this lot gets extended out to commercial, but why not this one or the one that the fisherman's
So
catches?
that one has a house on it currently.
Okay.
And this one has a house on it currently.
Ah, gotcha.
So, I mean, we could.
Are they
but
connected to the fisherman's catch, or is it-
No.
no, they're separate lots?
separate.
Oh,
And
okay.
a single family is currently not allowed use in commercial, so if you take that lot and you put a single family into commercial, you're making their conforming use non-conforming.
Okay.
It always makes me a little nervous. People don't really like that.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it corrects an obvious.
I know,
Seen
you would
the
think it would
animators
just kinda go
ourselves.
straight through there.
No, but I mean, just doing this alone just corrects, because they shouldn't have been pulling off of that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this wetland here, how much bigger that one is than that one.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't shoreland.
I know.
So, I mean,
I recently had the same situation in Bridgeton.
yeah. So the last one is a complete repeal and replacement of the floodplain management ordinance. You guys don't really need to, I think, really go through this. It's a template from the state. The state actually provided us with the draft. They did for all the communities. It's because we're getting updated floodplain maps this year.
Yeah, I heard it's June, right?
June, yep. So we have to essentially have an ordinance that matches this. So we just took their draft they gave us and said, we're gonna repeal our 97 ordinance and replace it with this, because we don't even have a Word document for the 97 one. So we can't even edit it. So we let the state do the work.
We've never dealt with this.
Do we need to check any of the
No.
definitions against us?
Essentially, what the state has done is they have gone through all of the ordinances to make sure that everything complies, even going through and making sure that they correct the authority having jurisdiction. In this case, it's code officer, not planning board. Some towns are planning board, so they go through and make sure that's all right. It's been going on for, project's been going on for 10 years, I think, so.
But I mean, like accessory structure, do we need to make sure that matches up with our accessory structure? We don't?
Nope, because we can't change it.
Oh.
Has to match theirs.
So here's an
We have to
ordinance you
change
have to
ours.
implement, but you
Yeah.
can't touch it.
Yeah, and if we do, we have to send it to them to be reviewed, and it's not suggested.
So here's an ordinance, we recommend you, but you can't change it.
Right.
Yeah, you can make changes, but it
Those are
has to
easy
go,
ones.
Can't say no.
has to go to the state to be looked at, and who knows how that'll go.
Don't challenge it, don't say no. Don't change it.
So a few other things. The business license ordinance, the town manager is proposing an amendment to that. She's wondering if you guys would like to see that, or if you're okay with it just going to the select board. Because you guys don't do anything with the business licenses, so.
Nothing.
What's the change, you know?
She's proposing to get rid of the requirement that the businesses have to renew annually. It's a one-time license instead of an annual renewal.
That's them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. What we've normally done in the past is we brought them to the planning board, and we've just forwarded them.
That's fine, we can do that.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think
And
we
I
should.
think for
should-
consistency, we should
We
stick with
expected that would be the answer.
Okay.
I was planning on that.
Yeah.
So we'll have that, it'll be included for next month. And then the other one is Mr. Wayne Jones. There is a proposed amendment coming forward for the fire protection ordinance. So you guys have looked at that as well in the past. So Wayne, are you thinking next month you'll have something?
Yes, that's
Okay.
my plan, is to have something for the board to look at next month. And one of those would, issues that they select board asked us to look at is an appeals process also, which we don't currently have.
So Wayne, one of the things that was said last night that I think was incorrect was one of the select board members had suggested that appeals would go to the planning board. And,
Yes,
and that should really be the Board of Appeals,
Yeah.
since the planning board.
I
doesn't-
was thinking along the same line.
Yeah, okay.
Is that, you and I will work on that?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yep. But that is it. It started with a list of 2 things and it's turned into a list of like.
Always
12.
does.
So timeline. I assume town meeting in June, like always.
They are officially doing ballot again. Instead
Okay.
of town meeting. But that still puts us with, we would like to have a public hearing for March.
In March.
So
Okay.
next month, we have to bring
Yeah, because
everything in.
usually you gotta post it in April, right, for the ballots and everything.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get our last review next month.
Next month, which we'll try to get these as tight as possible.
And you're gonna, and then you'll put out the notice for the review. March will come to us.
Yep.
Okay.
You guys will make your recommendations, and then it'll go to the select board.
And I know in emergency cases, we've done it in the past, we could always add an additional workshop in there if we need.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see any of
I don't
these really.
see anything
seeing-
this time.
Do you see any of these generating use
Just accessory dwelling units might have some
some impact?
in the zoning changes if we end up going forward with that, but
Okay.
we'll see. I mean,
All right. That works.
So the accessory unit is gonna satisfy the law, was it 2003? Yeah,
yeah,
but I can tell Peter that he's awfully concerned.
yeah, yeah. And I know. I mean, one of Peter's bigger concern, I think, is short-term rentals. He's concerned with these apartments that we don't have an ordinance for short-term rentals
Yeah.
to assist with that, which
Yeah.
I could see. You know, if you've got 80 new apartments on the Cape and they're all being rented, that could be an issue. But you know, the select board did decide last year they weren't interested in a short-term rental ordinance until the state provided some more.
Yeah, the only town that I'm
Guidance.
aware of is actually Casco.
Casco, yeah.
But again, it's more of a registration.
It's a licensing process.
Yeah, licensing
said
process.
Casco?
And it's
Yeah.
Casco, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it becomes, for enforcement, it just becomes a nightmare.
I'd be all for it if we had a police department.
Well, and
It's just tough without.
other communities have looked at it and the same thing. You're relying on the sheriff department and that's just so far down on their list of priorities, it'll never happen.
So really, with a licensing ordinance, you'd have 3 strikes and you're out. So basically, you can't get a license and you're not allowed to have a rental. And enforcement of that seems.
The only thing that I
Challenging,
saw within that,
but-
I did see it, was they did require all the rental units to have, like you have in a hotel, a placard that says the maximum number of occupants and things like that. Which, again, I guess it's like a certificate for a warranty, right? Makes you feel good, but it doesn't really mean anything.
I think eventually.
It's the enforcement side that's difficult.
Eventually, it's going to happen.
Seasonal help,
but
if possible.
I think the select board really needs to probably give you guys guidance on that one.
All right. Do you have anything else for us? Under staff communications?
I don't believe we have anything for next month other than this.
Okay.
Solar, no?
Solar, they will not be in until March, the solar project. So March will be fun if we have a public hearing and then we have the solar project, so.
I will not be here for the next meeting. Are there any other conflicts? Does anybody else know this right now?
You can join us in
Good.
Zoom, just like Kevin.
Yeah,
I can't even Zoom.
that's the kind of way to get away.
In March, I'll be Zooming, but February, I can't even Zoom.
I want to go where you're going.
So Ed, you'll chair next month
Ed was going to chair it.
and then you're going to be on Zoom in March?
Yes.
So do you want Ed to chair that one too? I think last time that's what you had done, or are you going to try and chair it through Zoom?
It's probably going to be a public hearing. I think I could try it.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, I'll pass it to Ed.
All right, cool.
Pass the gavel to me.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, via Zoom, I'll pass it to you, so I don't know how that works.
You gotta give him
A virtual
remote.
pass. Yeah.
Can you do that remotely? Can you come up with a
Unless you
caricature?
want to do the watch. If you think that'd be easier, it's okay with me.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next month.
Okay.
When you're in Zoom doing the public hearing, we're gonna put Judge Judy up.
Let's see.
All right, anything else? Everybody happy? We need one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor? We're done.